Hello again everyone to my React.js series. So now in this video we would be learning how to implement inline, internal and external CSS. So without wasting time, let's just directly dive into it. Okay, so now for this app.js, let's get rid of all this stuff. Let's just make a totally new component here. Let's don't import. I don't hustle to be created here, so let's just start with a fresh component. So it would be, so the in components in folder test2 I would be creating two files, test2.js and the css folder for the same. Okay, so now in React, inside the components, usually we have navbar component. So for navbar we have separate JS and CSS files. So entangle both. So we keep it in a separate folder inside the components, so that it's easy for us to recognize them and this also helps to put this CSS into this file, or else we would have number of JS and CSS inside just one folder, and it would create a hustle among the code reader, and it won't have a good impression. So it's just used for clarity of folder directory structure. So this is a good habit actually. So now let's just create a functional component here, and let's just give some dummy text there. Hello from test, and let's just import it here. test2/test2. Okay, so now let's just keep it here inside the app component, and already my server is running, so let's just see the output, and it's as expected. So now let me show you the demo for inline css. So inline css, you guys might be knowing that here we give the style inside the tag, but for React we would, as it is a JSX, it would be compiled into pure JavaScript, so we are using this double curly braces just to give it a color of red, and rest of the thing remains same. So now you will be able to see a red color text here. So as you guys might be able to see the compiled JavaScript folder which is turned into HTML here. So this is how it works, the inline CSS. Just sorry for forgetting the name. And now anyways, so we are getting started with the internal CSS. So just write a text from. Okay, so now internal CSS, usually we have to create a variable here, despite we used to create we used to declare the style inside the style tag in our pure HTML, but that's not the case here. So here we would be declaring a variable, and we would be giving it the property of CSS. So let me just give it a color of blue, and the style would be, and here you can give any name, means any name of the variable would be okay for us to use. Style, oh sorry, I gave the incorrect name there. So here you can see the compiled version and how it turned out for us. So also you can use your different tags as you want, it would be helpful, or you can create multiple variables for different tags, like for this one, just sorry for this. Okay, so after we have done inline and internal CSS, so let's just directly dive to external CSS. So in external CSS, as you guys might know, that we create a separate CSS file, and for simplicity purpose I made it in the same folder, and I hope you also follow the same structure of directory, so it would be easy for for anyone to get the CSS and JS file in the same folder. I hope you got it. Okay, so anyways, so let's just give it a okay. So anyways, so we aren't using classes, so let me just use a class here and div tag. So let's just give it aqua color. So also here you don't need to give double quotes as we use in external CSS for simple HTML. And let's give some sample class name here. Also we need to import that CSS file here. Okay, so now let's give this thing a class name of whatever we give there, sample. And again here we don't write class. In React we usually write class name because here we have different keyword for class, and if you also give class here, then obviously there would be a conflict created. So in order to avoid it, we have class name here, and let's just give it as sample class name there. And I think, yeah, so we got our thing there. But what if I give here simple div tag? Then also it works. So this is how this structure helps us to keep all the CSS and JSX in one folder, and also so that we don't create any mess there, and hopefully we could relate the CSS and JSX with I mean the classes between them, the CSS class with the JS class. For example, the class we created here with the class which we had here. And also for simplicity, if you have 2-3 CSS for this test2.js, then what you can do is, for example, I have a class name of here as sample as we had before. And then what I would do is create a separate variable name for this particular CSS file, and then I would give it a class name of, not a class name but directly stylo, which refers to the CSS of test2, but it doesn't work here. Okay, so in order to overcome this situation where we have 2-3 CSS files, so here we need to change the name for this CSS file. We don't need to exactly change its name, but as it's for a particular module like test2, and so what this module helps us to, what we can say, help us to familiarize with all the other CSS files which we have in the same folder. So that's why it is helpful that in order to recognize that this test2.module was created for this folder, and another one which would have like test3.module which would be also for the same folder. So that also we can create with so let's just try this stuff. So you guys might be able to see that I renamed it, and it still doesn't work. I don't know why. Okay, so I got the fault. So it's actually because I needed to give it a class name, not style here. So the class name would be stylo.sample. So just ensure that you copy and paste the same class there, and I hope we got our desired result. Sorry for making such a funny mistake, but now let's just so this is how you can create multiple CSS folder. So let us try by creating another folder for this thing, and let's just give it another class name where we would have a background color of, let's say, blue. Okay, so this would be my first div, and let's create another div where we would be saying hello from blue or hello from h3.css. Okay, now I need to import. Here you can use any variable as you want. And here you can see that I am importing it. And let's just give it the class name. So this is just for testing purpose, in order to see if we can use multiple CSS file for one folder itself. So I don't think that it worked here. Okay, so sample. Okay, so it works here, but if I just give it sample, then it is quite obvious that it won't recognize it, and as the parent's color is stylo.sample, that is aqua, so this whole thing would acquire aqua color, and this won't work there. So I hope that you guys understood what I needed to tell you, and this is how CSS works for React, and I hope that you would be quite relaxed after knowing how the CSS works and what are the different types of styling. Yes, we have all the 3 types of styling, but just a bit of modification. And I hope that you understood how we can create multiple CSS file for just one JS file, and we can integrate each and everything there. And also, you guys don't forget that here we had an app component, and here we haven't used any CSS file. For example, if I remove this, then it won't affect anything here, because there's a different component test2 which had its own different CSS file. So just try to distinguish it, then it will be good to go. And so like this, we can have a different component of navbar which would have different styles, and then goes your sidebar and the middle bar, and then comes the footer. So this is how you can design different components and give it different styling. And now you might be wondering, what about the responsive part? So yeah, so you can also use Bootstrap or and design whatever you need to implement, or you can create your own custom responsive CSS by using .media queries. So I hope that it answers your question of how to make it responsive. And also there are many libraries which helps to make you responsive, and also we have Bootstrap named library in React, and React Bootstrap also. And obviously you are free to use any of the responsive library. You can explore it on Google, you can go for it, whatever as per your requirement. So I hope that you understood inline, internal and external CSS, how we apply it on React.js. So thank you very much for watching this video, and subscribe for more. Thank you. Bye.